The title is not clickbait. There's a real chance that this gun will break the Crucible now that the Witch Queen is dropped. The wild thing is, it's not any new addition or new perk, it's just the good old Lumina. I know this might be hard to believe, and I promise I'm not trying to bait you. It's possible that the Lumina is going to break quick play, and I'll try my best to explain why, but it's going to take me a second, so hang in there with me. Let's start with square zero, and I'll get through the boring numbers as quickly as possible. The Lumina is an exotic 140 RPM hand cannon in the kinetic slot. Its stats used to be quite poor, but they just got massively buffed in the Witch Queen expansion. It slipped under the radar a bit with all the other news around the expansion, but it just got a massive 15 boost to its range and 10 boost to its stability. These stats are no joke, and now it's competing stats-wise with many of the heaviest hitting hand cannons atop the PvP meta. Checking the before and after footage, Lumina used to have about 29 meters of range, and that just got buffed up to 31 meters. A while back, the range band of hand cannons was squished down to a spectrum of about 8 meters. So this range bump was actually all it took to turn a fairly short-range hand cannon into quite a decently ranged one. You might be thinking, okay, 2 or 3 meters of range, big deal. And I'd agree, this doesn't seem all that game-changing on paper, but the range set also directly influences how sticky a weapon feels at those extended ranges. So in addition to dealing a bit more damage thanks to the reduced falloff, you're also going to be consistently landing more headshots instead of body shots with the extra forgiveness imparted from that higher range stat. And let's not forget that plus 10 stability buff either. Previously, Lumina had a base stability of 46, which got boosted to 55 with Chambered Compensator. After the buff though, it's now sitting at 64, which is again very good. Here's a comparison of the recoil before and after the buff. Again, it's not the smoothest recoil out there, but it's still very good. It might be hard to understand how big of a buff this is if you haven't tried the Lumina recently. It really suffered from a poor range stat and horrendous recoil before. If you went from using something as smooth as a palindrome back to the Lumina, it felt pretty jarring and awful. Sure, the Lumina isn't magically the best feeling hand cannon in the game or anything extreme like that, but it is feeling much better, and as I'll soon explain, that's not even the main attraction. Before we get into the many ways that the Lumina might be making you pull your hair out this season, don't fret because I may have a solution for you. Did you know that 2 out of 3 guys will experience some sort of male pattern baldness before they turn 35? This stat shocked me when I heard it because, well, I just turned 35 this year and I'm starting to keep a closer eye up on my hairline. Luckily though, there are ways to fight hair loss, and the sponsor of this video, Keeps, is trying to help you before things get too out of hand. That's because the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something while you still have some. With Keeps, a licensed doctor will review your info online and recommend a treatment plan that works best for you. You'll have 24/7 access to ask any questions you might have, and your treatment will get conveniently shipped to your door every 3 months. They also have a progress tracking tool to help you know how things are going. And Keeps offers FDA-approved generic versions of their medications, so you're getting the most affordable options out there. They have more 5-star reviews than any of their competitors, and hundreds of thousands of men trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/pattycakes or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/pattycakes. Lumina is the spiritual opposite of the exotic hand cannon called Thorn. You might be more familiar with this one as it's been in the game since Necessity 1. Getting a kill will spawn an orb on your enemy's corpse, which you can then go pick up. Doing so empowers both hand cannons. Thorn gets more damage, but Lumina gets a noble round. And with the catalyst, Lumina gets 2 noble rounds. You can see your noble round count in the bottom left corner of your screen. They'll just chill there until you die or until you use them all up. You do this by hip firing the Lumina. That depletes 1 noble round and sends out a bolt of white energy that will seek towards your teammates. Whenever this touches your teammates, it will heal them and grant both of you 10 seconds of a mobile damage boost for all of your weapons. The Lumina buff is equivalent to an empowering rift, except you can move around. By itself, this can synergize with a lot of different weapon types. Lawrence Driver, the totally balanced linear fusion rifle, can one-shot body at almost all resilience levels. High impact snipers can do the same for lower resilience levels. 120 RPM hand cannons and the Dead Man's Tail can now 2-tap, SMGs melt even faster, and there's more. But where this becomes really nasty is when it's paired with a certain Warlock subclass and an exotic armor piece. Yes, I'm talking to you middle tree Well of Radiance players. You might not know it yet, but you're playing one of the most powerful and degenerate subclasses in the whole game, at least for 6v6 game modes. I see you there already typing your angry response about how hunters are OP, but just wait. Let me explain what I mean by this, and then tell me if you still want to send me that hate mail. Many of the recent balance changes by Bungie have strongly reduced the amount of one-shot abilities or weapons in the Crucible. The 30th anniversary removed a lot of instant kill abilities, and special ammo availability got reduced yet again in the Witch Queen. This means that our damage output as players is steadily decreasing. If our damage output is low, healing and empowering abilities make a big difference in the Crucible. For example, a Stag Healing Rift can let you survive a ridiculous amount of hand cannon headshots, but it's still no match for an easy one-shot kill of a sniper rifle. If If you take away the sniper rifle though, suddenly the stag damage resistance and healing becomes much harder to deal with. Basically, you'd have to try and get something like a vortex nade on top of your opponent's rift. But then, the middle tree Dawnblade comes into the picture. Quickly erase the idea of just standing in a rift from your mind, because throwing this bad boy on will instantly heal anyone to full health plus an overshield. And that overshield might sound like a joke to you until you realize that even more one-shot abilities stop working. If you're not quite up to speed, I'm talking about the Divine Protection perk on the middle tree Dawnblade subclass. It allows you to overcharge your usual grenade and get an orb of instant healing and overshield for both you and your teammates. This doesn't depend on which grenade type you're using, so you could opt for the fastest cooldown of the firebolt grenades. So basically, every 30 seconds or so, you get a free oh crap button anytime someone manages to damage you. And as if having a 30-second cooldown isn't enough, the subclass intrinsic perk called Benevolent Dawn will give you even more juice cooldowns. That's just for healing or empowering your teammates. And to all of you watching, now we've gotten to the meat of the video, because you see this perk synergizes way too good with way too many things. You know what, I try to keep my channel pretty family friendly, but I'm not really sure that the overpoweredness of Lumina is for the faint of heart. Here's a small list of all the different things which can get you a massive chunk of your abilities back. Any teammate touching your healing rift, any teammate touching your empowering rift, any teammate picking up your overshield grenade, punching anyone with teammates nearby, firing a Lumina noble round at someone. Wait, what did I just say? That's right, firing a noble round at someone. With the middle tree Dawnblade, Lumina doesn't just buff your teammate, it also gets an incredibly souped up version of Wellspring for free. We so innocently thought that the ability spam meta was over, yet here we are again, with less than 30-second cooldowns on our abilities, which are being accelerated yet again by our weapon. If only there was some magical way to get those noble rounds without the initial kill requirement. Well, masters of space magic I guess, Warlocks have come up with the answer to that too. The last missing item on our list is Boots of the Assembler. When you equip these, your rifts create orbs of healing or empowering which aggressively seek out your teammates, and basically give them the same buff as Lumina. And of course this also activates the subclass perk Benevolent Dawn to speed up your abilities yet again. But this isn't even the most problematic part of these boots. While developing their intergalactic wizard powers, the Warlocks gave these boots a secret perk, so illegal that they wouldn't even mention it in the description. Rifts created with these boots on, besides spawning orbs for your teammates, also passively spawn noble rounds for the Lumina. Let me explain this in simple terms. These boots buff your friends, they give your Lumina noble rounds to buff even more friends, which again gives you an almost permanent damage buff, and they give you all of your abilities back basically for free, including an Uno reverse button in the form of an instant healing grenade. If you remember that almost all of the one-shot tricks have been removed from the game, it should become painfully obvious that this setup is crazy powerful. In 6v6 game modes, for essentially no cost whatsoever, you permanently keep spreading healing and a damage boost to your teammates. And these 5 teammates can go run around 2-tapping and 1-tapping all of their enemies. If they want to, your teammates can even combine this with any sort of damage resistance or overshield builds to inflict even more damage on your opponents. I guess both in-game and probably emotionally as well. If you've ever wanted to play as a true healer role for your team, this is your big opportunity. In fact, this playstyle creates my favorite minigame in all of Destiny PvP, Adopt the Blueberry. Every once in a while, I'll throw this build on and pick a random blueberry on my team to follow around and keep alive as long as I possibly can with my arsenal of healing tricks. It's like the Destiny version of Protect the President. The buffs being so mobile with Lumina makes it almost impossible to counter this playstyle by means of a simple grenade. Your only chance is basically to snipe the Warlock medic outright. This can prove to be a tall order considering the ammo changes, and of course this doesn't stop your remaining 5 teammates from reaping the rewards of this playstyle. Now this playstyle isn't new to Witch Queen, it's actually been around for a little while, but the big downside was that you were always gimping yourself by playing both a subclass with a really low offensive power and also using a primary weapon that was lacking in stats, especially for an exotic weapon. With Lumina getting buffed though, the Warlock doesn't even have to sacrifice having a good primary weapon to play like this anymore. They can use a well-rounded and powerful loadout while spamming abilities and spreading a lot of healing and damage boosts to their teammates. But then you might ask, so why is this a 6v6 problem? What stops it from working in trials? Well, the answer is kinda the zone. In 6v6 game modes, the damage boost and healing can spread to so many more players than in a 3v3 mode. The most principal weakness of the Boots of the Assembler is the fact that they bind the Warlock to the Rift. Otherwise, the Rift won't produce those noble rounds. Now in a 6v6 game mode, this is no big deal because there's no pressure for the Warlock to push up and engage in all of the fights. They can just camp any zone in control and keep spreading all of those buffs to their teammates. Unfortunately for them in trials though, they can't really stand still forever. They still need to participate much more actively in teamfights. Otherwise, their teammates would be in a 3v2 situation, which is really hard to win even if they have their damage boost. Camping in the corner of a map is also not really an option because both teams are pressured to fight for a good position around the zone, which appears after just about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Isn't it a bit ironic how everyone hates sitting on a zone and control, yet when it comes down to the wire, the zone is the key to breaking one of the potentially most degenerate and broken strategies in the whole game. And speaking of degenerate strategies, what really are they? Well, I won't bore you too much with the math of degenerate strategies, so I'm going to keep this one short. I'll just say it's a strategy which is so incredibly good that any team not using it, or at least not using an equally broken strat, will lose almost guaranteed. My friend Maki, who helped me with this build and also the video script, made a great video explaining this theory, and I'll link it in the description. Back in the day, the Chaos Reach Warlocks used to be a great example of this in Trials, and thankfully that's been nerfed by Bungie. Fortunately, I don't know of a strategy so broken that it doesn't allow for any counterplay in Trials right now. Maybe farming Whisper of Rhyme overshields, but there are a few cool ways to beat that. In the case of 6v6 and the middle tree Dawnblade, the abundance of damage boosts and overshields makes the strat so hard to beat in a coordinated team that I think your really only chance to beat them is to have one of your own. Otherwise, you're going to be killing your opponents much slower than they can kill you, and that's never a good feeling. You know how frustrating playing a Stag Warlock can be, right? Well, this is like the Stag except mobile and on the entire enemy team. I think this is one of the hardest team builds to beat in the Crucible, and I really hope I don't come across it too much this season. Let me know in the comments, do you agree with me on this one? What are your best ideas to beat this strat? If you like borderline degenerate builds, I'd recommend you watch a video I made about the Hunter build that can throw nearly unlimited tripmine grenades. It's the one on the top right of your screen and also linked in the description.